नमस्कार। मैं राजलक्ष्मी जोशी और जय हो के एक और एपिसोड में आप सभी का बहुत बहुत स्वागत है। दिस इज राजलक्ष्मी जोशी एंड अ वेरी वार्म वेलकम टू अनदर एपिसोड ऑफ जय हो। सबसे पहले आप सभी का बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आपने हमारे पहले दोनों एपिसोड्स को इतना सारा प्यार और इतना अच्छा रिस्पॉन्स दिया और मुझे यकीन है कि आने वाले सभी एपिसोड्स भी आप उसी उतना ही जोश से उतनी ही enthusiasm से देखेंगे. In the past two episodes of JO, we have spoken with two dynamic personalities who have made a mark for themselves, one as a soldier and another as a person who is symbolic of seva. And today we will meet not one but two personalities who are a symbol of fearless journalism and who will leave no stone unturned to reach to the very bottom of the truth. So I bring to you today Amit Bagaria and
Savio Rodrigues.
Amit Bagaria is a serial entrepreneur and an author of 13 books, of which 8 have been magnificent bestsellers. Savio is a well-known television panelist and the founder and editor-in-chief of the Goa Chronicles. But what will interest you most is the latest book, Modi Stole My Mask, and which is already a bestseller. And this book intends to reveal all the secrets revolving around the COVID pandemic that we are all facing. So with no further delay, let us speak with Amit Bagaria and Savio. Jai Ho.
He wants to know what was the memorandum of understanding signed by Congress and the Communist Party of China.
Why is the international arena seeing or portraying India as dangerous for Christians? I am a Christian. I was born in a Christian family. And I've been here in India for 20 years. I've not had a problem at all.
The non-fiction book is Usama. Is USA the world's largest terrorist? And I ask this question because after World War II, the US has been involved in the internal affairs of 82 sovereign nations, which has resulted in the death of 7.3 million people.
So I have no problem accepting the fact that culturally I'm a Hindu. I'm a Vedic origin person. I can't hold my grandparents responsible.
I say Jai Ho.
Jai Ho. Jai Ho. A very warm welcome to both our guests today here, Amit Bagaria and Savio Rodrigues. So, hello to both of you and welcome to our show, Jai Ho. And I'm sure that our viewers will have a lot of questions on their mind. There's a lot of curiosity about the book, about the situation that we're all going through right now. So I can't wait to hear about your book. And also, yeah, there is a question, but then I will keep it for last because I would, like they say, save the best for last. So something that I'm really curious about, but I'm going to ask right at the last. Okay. So, Amit, could you just take us through what exactly the book is all about?
Thank you. So it's good to be here, Raj Lakshmi. Thanks for inviting us to Jai Ho. The book is very simply all about what the subtitle says, the truth about India's COVID crisis. That is the essence of the book. Because whether an individual reads the newspaper or not, whether one watches TV news or not, in some way or the other, indirectly or directly, since this COVID pandemic has been such a large catastrophe which has affected, I would say, 80-85% of citizens in India, whether they or their family got it or not, a neighbor got it or somebody known to them got it, or, there's people have been affected by lockdowns, etc. People have been hearing things. They've been hearing, even people who are away from, like I said, news or even social media, they've been hearing it through WhatsApp chats. And I think almost every Indian, at least, is on some WhatsApp chat or the other. And the the kind of nonsense that's been floating around about COVID-19, the kind of rumors, the kind of allegations, the kind of misinformation is unbelievable. We've written in the book that COVID-19 caused by the coronavirus, and coronavirus is actually a Chinese bioweapon, and we can speak a little more about that later. But more important than this Chinese bioweapon is the weapon that has been used internally within India to strike at Prime Minister Narendra Modi. And this weapon has not hit Prime Minister Modi at all. You know who it has hit? It has hit crores of Indian citizens. It has made them go to despair. It has made them to think badly about Bharat Mata. Everybody thinks that we live in some very, very backward country. We are in the 18th century. We don't have an existing healthcare system. We don't even have oxygen. And the purpose of this book, and another misnomer is the numbers. You know, if there was a tsunami, right, a few years ago, which hit the southeastern coast of India and devastated coastal villages in Tamil Nadu and Puducherry especially. That tsunami also affected Andaman and Nicobar Islands much, much more than it affected Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. But a far lesser amount of people died in Andaman and Nicobar Islands compared to Tamil Nadu and Puducherry. And that was because the population of Andaman and Nicobar Islands is much smaller. Similarly, when a newspaper like Times of India prints a big article comparing India's vaccination percentage with Israel's and fails to mention that Israel's population is 0.66% of India. That is how you fool the people. The numbers were bad, but they were not nearly as bad as more than half the countries that have been affected by COVID-19. And when you compare only with large countries, relatively large countries, because the only real two large countries that we can compare ourselves with is China and the US, and China does not disclose correct numbers. So then you're only left with comparing with the US. So we have in the book actually compared the Indian numbers with 16 countries, which have a population of 40 million or more. And you can see in that, and I'll be happy to share some statistical data with you, that India was not in the top 10 or 12 in terms of either the number of cases or deaths or the test positivity ratio. We actually had very good numbers.
True.
So because of this and because of several other reasons, several other pieces of misinformation that were being spread by what in the book Savio and I have called the Anti-Modi Brigade or the AMB, we decided that the truth must be told, and hence the book.
Yes. I've been lucky to be able to get a sneak preview. I was one of the first few to read it, perhaps. And there was a lot of mention about these vultures and how the international media and a lot of our national media also were creating this narrative of India is collapsing, which is exactly what our show, Jai Ho, hopes to destroy, that narrative of India is collapsing. And our previous episode spoke about Bharat shows the way versus India is collapsing. So what exactly was your take about who are the key players behind these vultures, and what exactly was their intention?
I think Savio should answer that question. But just before that, I'll take 15 seconds, Rajalakshmi, for the purpose of Jai Ho, to give you one number. In the last 12 days, India has administered more vaccine jabs than the US, Brazil, Russia, and Mexico put together.
Jai
Jai
Ho.
Joe.
Yes, absolutely.
Rajlakshmi, to answer your question as to why do we have vultures? Well, if we look at nature, nature is filled with different kinds of animals. Our country is also filled with different kinds of birds, in this case, vultures. What they were doing was actually feeding on what was the health crisis of India. Now, it was not a health crisis that was particularly made for India. It was a health crisis that the whole world was experiencing. Yes, there were serious rise of cases in India in the second wave. And then you had an opportunity for what we, both Amit and I, think was the pandemic put forward in actually using the pandemic to create fear, to create chaos, to create confusion. And the largest
Did I hear it wrong? Were you saying pandemic, or did you mean to say pandemic?
No, I meant to say pandemic. There is a pandemic that was real, and then there was the pandemic, which was taking the pandemic and using it to create confusion, create chaos, but most of all, create fear. You see, health is something that everybody, whether you're in India or whether you're in any other part of the world, is very serious. And when you start losing people you love, it brings you to the point of despair. So what you had people in terms of politicians, in terms of certain sections of the media, and people in general who support the media as well as these politicians spreading was nothing but fear, based on misinformation, based on half information, or based on absolute lies. It was a combination of all of them. And in none of it was there ever truth. The only truth that was there was that people were suffering. Today, a health crisis like we saw in the second wave is something that I'm willing to challenge, along with Amit, any other leader in the world who could have dealt with the pandemic. The answer is it would have been difficult for any leader in the world to deal with it. For that, you need to look at numbers. For that, you need to look at statistics to understand what happened. Problem is, the people were not giving out the actual figures, nor were they giving out the actual picture. They were using certain aspects of information and creating what you would consider to be, misinformation going out using all social media platforms only to create confusion. And when a person is in despair, a person will want to hit out at somebody. So they would get angry with the doctors, they would get angry with the government, but most of all, they chose to turn their anger towards Prime Minister Narendra Modi and blame him. That was what the opposition wanted, to create a disconnect between Narendra Modi and the people of India. Were we in a bad situation? Yes, we were. Were we doing nothing about it? The answer is absolutely wrong. Could there have been much more done? Maybe we need to ascertain that, and so that when we get into, say, other health crises, we can deal with it. But if we were to compare India with the rest of the world, I think we have done phenomenally for containing the crisis right now. Whether is the crisis gone away? The answer is no. I think Narendra Modi's focus has worked. He could have done things better, which Amit will share with you certain data points. But together we can solve this crisis not by fear, but by hope. And yesterday when Narendra Modi spoke, that was what Mr. Narendra Modi should have done at least a month ago. You see, people were having hope in him. They don't have hope in an Arvind Kejriwal or a Rahul Gandhi or even a Mamata Banerjee. They don't. But that was certain fault points that Prime Minister Modi had. He should have spoken a little earlier. But having said that, this pandemic had to have been exposed, and that's why Amit and I decided to write the book.
You know, one beautiful thing is somebody completely unknown to either Savio or me, some Mr. Ullas, who's a professor at a university in Hyderabad, read the book He was one of the early people to write a review on Twitter. And in his small review, very, very small review, his probably 2-sentence review, if I can remember, his second sentence or his last sentence was, "Beta can lie, data cannot."
Very true.
We've actually decided to print his review in the book, along with the reviews of many well-known personalities, because that's exactly what happened. Beta was lying and lying and lying and lying, and Savio and I, through data, are telling the truth. Now, people may think that the book is biased. I challenge anyone, including Mr. Rahul Gandhi or Arvind Kejriwal or Mamata Banerjee or whoever, to point out one mistake in the book. One mistake. Number one. Number two, we've started the book by saying that as chief executive of the country, Narendra Modi is ultimately responsible. And
Yes.
in many, many places, we've pointed out mistakes that the central government made.
Yes, that even I have observed that you have, in a very unbiased way and in a very honest way, you have put across all the points. So this is nowhere a kind of a whitewashing of any political party, that is for sure. But I'm sure that you have gone into the very depths to try to find out what exactly caused whatever this panic situation was, especially the second wave. I saw a lot of mention about the doctors and the vaccination part of it. So would you like to elaborate on that? Because that actually is a very huge factor. And there's a lot of misinformation about the vaccination, especially on social media. The privileged lot, they all want these foreign vaccines, which I think is quite unfeasible. And like you said, data is king. So then what, according to your data, do these figures about the vaccine say about our vaccination drive?
So, it's a very good question, because vaccination is the most important thing, as vaccination is the only thing that can prevent somebody from getting affected with COVID-19, right? There is no cure for the disease. So vaccination is one form of prevention, and therefore the largest chapter in the book is dedicated to vaccination. Now, as far as did we go wrong in vaccination is concerned, if you look at it in a very generic fashion without analyzing data, then it's very easy to conclude that, oh, we didn't prepare, we didn't have enough vaccines to deliver to people. We should have manufactured more, we should have imported more, we should have done something. Now, let me address both the issues. As far as manufacturing more vaccines is concerned, there were, until a month ago, only 2 Indian manufacturers of vaccines. This month, there are 5. Next month, there will be 8. By September, there will be 16. So you cannot put up a vaccine factory overnight, like Rahul Gandhi can put up aloo ki factory. Ek taraf se aloo dalu, dusre taraf sona niklega. That kind of magic does not happen with vaccine factories, unless if he knows the magic, he should have shared it with the world. It takes a
and the kind of questions that he's asking about, why private hospitals should have to charge even 150 rupees. I mean, that was a simple question that he has asked. I mean, so that shows the kind of intellect behind it.
But does Mr. Rahul Gandhi buy his rations from the public distribution system, or does he buy it from a private grocer?
Yeah, exactly.
What a moron this guy is. What a moron. I mean, the word that people use for him, Pappu, I think is a gali to Pappu. So it takes a minimum of 4 months to set up a vaccine manufacturing facility. Now let's look at the 2 Indian manufacturers. Bharat Biotech is a very, very small company. they invested thousands of crores in investing in a COVID-19 vaccine, but their one plant could only produce an X amount of vaccine per month. They had plans to set up 3 more plants, 3 more manufacturing facilities. But then, when the vaccination drive was announced, you had people like Mr. Akhilesh Yadav saying, Covaxin mat lo, ye BJP ka vaccine hai. You had a slew of Congress leaders, let me name them, Manish Tiwari, Jairam Ramesh, Shashi Tharoor, putting out tweets or doing press conferences saying, the efficacy of this vaccine is not sure, the trials have not been done properly, don't take the vaccine. You had Supreme Court lawyer Prashant Bhushan, who still till today talks against the vaccine. Cartoonist Satish Acharya put out 11 cartoons against the vaccine, which have been seen by 2.5 crore people on social media. If you were the owner of Bharat Biotech, would you have invested another 2,000 crores in 3 more manufacturing plants, seeing all this noise in the media about your vaccine not being acceptable? No, I wouldn't have done it. I don't know who would have taken that risk. That delayed their expansion by 2.5 months. Number 3, nobody predicted that the second wave would shoot up so much and so quickly. The peak number of cases in India's second wave were 4.23 times the peak of the first wave. The average of the 16 countries that we studied was 1.66 times. So compare India having 4.23 times peak with the average being 1.66 times. You don't prepare for something which is unknown, right? Even Dr. Anthony Fauci said that you can't prepare for it. Adar Poonawalla, the owner of Serum Institute of India, the largest manufacturer of vaccines, he said that even God couldn't have predicted it. This is what he told a UK newspaper. And I agree with him. Even God couldn't, I mean, God probably could, but no human being could have predicted it. No human being did. Now let's come to imported vaccines. Rajlakshmi, do you know that not a single there were only, let me not talk about not a single. There were initially only 2 foreign manufacturers willing to manufacture vaccines in India in partnership with local companies or export vaccines to India. One was Novavax. Their vaccines were supposed to be produced from March onwards by Serum Institute of India. An agreement was signed way back in November. But after taking over in November, on November 25th, after he became the de facto president of the United States, Mr. Joe Biden, the favorite of the leftist media, decided that he would stop the export of raw materials to Serum Institute. So the Novavax vaccine could not be produced. The only other company that was willing was Pfizer, right? First of all, Pfizer wanted a price which was 12 times the price of Covishield. 12 times the price. Number 1. Number 2, we've written this in a very, very elaborated fashion in the book, and I don't want to waste the time here in the limited time in the video. But basically, the logistics required to import Pfizer vaccines are mind-boggling. Mind-boggling. You need a very, very low temperature. You need to bring the vaccines on chartered flights. Within 6 minutes, you need to transport them into refrigerated vans, which India doesn't have. Okay. Then you need to transport it by those refrigerated vans to across the length and breadth of the country, and then hospitals who receive them have to have the. I'll just give you that figure. I don't remember the figure, but I'll just give it to you in a second. The Indian vaccines, Covishield and Covaxin, they only require a temperature of 2 degrees to 8 degrees Celsius. 2 degrees to 8 degrees. Whereas the Pfizer vaccines require minus 60 to minus 80 degrees. We don't have that infrastructure. And we've calculated the cost just to meet 30% of India's vaccine requirement would have costed 7,014 crores, 7014 crores, just for the transportation alone. Only the air charter flights. Madam Sonia Gandhi should have contributed that 7,014 crores from the Rajiv Gandhi Foundation. They have the money. We would have got the vaccine. But more importantly, Pfizer is not able to meet even its delivery commitments in other countries. They are way behind their delivery commitments in Japan. They are way behind in Canada. They are way behind in European countries. So even Pfizer couldn't supply us the vaccines on time. And you know something very, very interesting? People have said that India should have vaccinated everybody before the second wave. So again, I want to, just give you a little statistic here. To vaccinate everybody who is willing to get vaccinated, and that means, again, we've given calculations in the book where we have calculated that 27.27% of the population above the age of 2 will not get vaccinated because they're not willing to get vaccinated. We've calculated the total requirement for India is 188.8 crore. 188.8 crore doses. Now, doses, media is calling it jabs, so let's either doses or jabs. A jab is a dose after you poke it in.
Yes. So they don't understand the difference between a dose
No,
and
the
a jab.
media is saying we've not imported enough jabs. I don't know how you can import pokes, but anyway, the point is India needs 188.8 crore doses to vaccinate the willing population above the age of 2. I'm not even talking about the adult population. I'm talking about above the age of 2, right? Because even children can get affected. And so far, anywhere in the world, no vaccine has been approved for under 2 years of age. 10th March is when the second wave started. So, as per these geniuses, India should have given 188.8 crore jabs before 10th March. The world had given only 33 crore jabs by that day.
Yes, I mean, that's
It's mathematics.
unimaginable and totally illogical and unreasonable. When you were talking about the costs, that brings me to another question that has been in the news quite a bit about how Modi Sarkar has been misusing funds. They've been using a lot of funds on the Central Vista project and in unnecessary projects, while they should have actually diverted it towards the healthcare. I think you have done a lot of study on that because I saw that also in the book. So could you just throw some light on that? That is something that a lot of people would be curious to know.
The entire amount of money being spent on the Central Vista project up to 15th August 2022, the 75th anniversary of India's independence, is 1,339 crores, which is equal to 0.47%, roughly 0.5% of the money sanctioned by the government and the RBI towards COVID relief measures.
And so much halla hulla about such a figure.
The halla gulla has nothing. The halla gulla has nothing to do with this fact that I just told you, Raj Lakshmi. The halla gulla has to do with 3 or 4 other things. If the Central Vista was built during Congress time, it would have been called Sonia Vista or Rahul Vista. Just like 445 other schemes, monuments, etc., have been named after Nehru or Indira or Rajiv Gandhi, right? So they've lost the opportunity to call it Sonia Vista or Rahul Vista. Number one. Number two, the Congress government wanted to build a new, the only building being built right now as part of the Central Vista project is a new Parliament House. In 2012, Congress wanted to build it on an urgent basis. By the time they formed one committee and then a few subcommittees and came up with a budget, etc., 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 it was too late. They were already out of power. But the price at which the Modi government is building the parliament is half, little less than half of the price they were going to build it at. So no cut money. No cut money. Third reason, the Central Vista is going to consolidate all central government offices, including the armed forces, into government-owned buildings in one street on Rajpath, in and around Rajpath, all interconnected with underground metro and underground walkways. That's for saving energy costs and basically to improve the ecology. But more importantly, a lot of buildings which are currently not owned by the government, which are rented by the government in various places in central Delhi, are owned by Congress leaders. So they will lose their rental income. That's
Exactly.
the reason for the opposition. These three reasons that I've just listed down.
Yes.
And they come out with unique things to criticize the project. Day before yesterday, I did an article on, or maybe yesterday, in Goa Chronicle about this latest rumors doing the rounds that Modi is going to burn India because he's constructing a triangular parliament house. You know, again, I spoke to experts and we stayed up all night to do this research that actually the shape of the building is not a triangle. Okay, it has cuts on all the three corners. All the three corners have been cut where actually the entrances are going to be to the Parliament House. One public entrance, one MP entrance, and one VVIP entrance. And this is based on bioenergy. And bioenergy was actually discovered by an Egyptian Muslim architect. An Egyptian Muslim architect in 1993. And he did 30 years of research to come out with this term called bioenergy. Lakhs of temples, mosques, and churches around the world and monuments have been built on the same principles, including the pyramids of Egypt.
So that answers the question of whether this is based on Vastu and why the design is as it is, etc., etc. And also, you've hit bullseye when you speak about how and why these objections to the Central Vista project actually came about. PM Modi, when he was speaking, he actually kind of, like I have written that he has unmasked all these opposition leaders by a lot of things that he spoke. So while he was actually speaking about wearing masks, he has unmasked all these people. And I wish he had spoken a little bit about the Central Vista project also. But yeah, so you have cleared the air about that part of it. Now, a major question that keeps coming up is about the Kumbh Mela. Savio, when I was speaking with him, he told me that he has actually visited the Kumbh Mela, which was kind of a bone of contention for a lot of people. Like, you know, going there was like the ultimate sin. So, Savio, you actually are a super spreader, I would say. What do you have to say about it?
Well, I'm proud to be a super spreader of Sanatan Dharma. And if
Yes.
people have a problem with it, well, they can live with it, or they can, not die with it. I don't want them to die because they hate me for be following Sanatan Dharma. But you have to tell you the fact. If you were to ask me a very straightforward question whether we should have had the Kumbh Mela or not, my personal opinion and Amit's opinion as well, based on data and based on facts, but most of all based on COVID protocols, we should have not had the Kumbh Mela, technically. But having visited the Kumbh Mela, I could vouch for myself that before I went there, we had to register ourselves online And one of the criteria to register ourselves online was to have a COVID test done and to have a COVID clear certificate, right? We had to then upload that certificate, and this was not done by me, it was done by my friends as well who came from Dubai. So we uploaded the certificates, we got our clearances to come to the Kumbh Mela. When I went to the Kumbh Mela, and when we finished the dip in the Ganga and we moved to Rishikesh, we interacted with the DM at that point of time because he was taking his rounds. So before we spoke to the DM, the first thing they asked us is, can we see your COVID certificate, clear certificate? So we took out our mobile phones and showed it to them. You can believe me, every 10-15 minutes, there were announcements at the Kumbh Mela, there were announcements at Rishikesh, there were announcements, made throughout the sessions. The toilets were very clean and hygienic. There were sanitized kiosks along almost 50 meters of that place. But most importantly, I can tell you, because I was one of the victims of it, was being absolutely undisciplined that I am when it comes to meeting my friends and being in a great place. I removed my mask. And I decided to click some pictures to put up on social media. A cop came to me and said, please put your mask on. And that's why you see some pictures have the mask on, because I almost got myself penalized. Right? So the point is, should it have been held? The answer is no. But having gone there, I can tell you it is one of the most fabulous experiences I've ever had. And I've never seen more disciplined a crowd that were there when I was there. I don't know what happened 7 days, 10 days later. I can't vouch for that crowd. But when I was there was absolutely disciplined actions and people were behaving themselves. But I repeat, it should not have been held purely based on the COVID protocols that needed to be adhered. But as an experience, I think I have seen a transformation in my life having dipped in the Holy Ganga.
Savio, you didn't tell the cop when the cop asked you to wear the mask. You didn't tell him Modi stole my mask.
No, that time you and I hadn't started writing the book.
So, who, according to you, would be a super spreader of COVID-19? Who? What exactly?
If you are asking me, it's the farmers' protest, in my opinion. The farmers' protest, in my opinion, is
that's what the numbers show.
That's what the numbers are saying.
No, but that's strange, Savio. That's strange, Savio and Amit, because we have been hearing about everything other than the farmers' protest as a reason, as the cause for the increase and for the second wave. So I would want to know how and why you're saying that the farmers' protest could be a reason for this.
In fact, Amit will let you know a few data points, because without data, there's no point in talking, right? But in our estimate and in our research and in our numbering, it is the farmer protest that is the largest super spreader of the COVID pandemic in the second wave.
Okay, are you saying this is even more than the election rallies that we have been speaking about?
Yes.
Absolutely. And, there are a lot of data points. It will be very difficult to describe it here. But we studied the trends from when the election was announced on February 26th or 28th. The number of cases that grew across the 20 largest states in India up to the time that the counting was done and the results were declared, and 2 weeks later. The cases grew the most in Delhi and Punjab.
Okay, is it because of a particular variant that had come from Punjab, or was it any other?
You mean the Khalistan variant? Yes.
I would go with the.
There were no elections. There was no election. Yeah. No elections and no Kumbh Mela in Delhi or Punjab. So the only variant that I can think of is the Khalistan variant.
So, according to you, that was the biggest super spreader, the farmers' protest, and there is absolutely no mention about it in most national media, and absolutely no mention in international media. In fact, they are actually showing support for it.
a far, far, far bigger super spreader than the farmer agitation was Bollywood.
That
Because
is
the
strange.
numbers grew in Maharashtra, especially in Mumbai, far more than even Delhi or Punjab. The second wave started there, it grew there, and it became the biggest super spreader because if you go back and study social media posts by Bollywood celebrities, including fashion models, and also the people who party with them, the super rich of Mumbai, throughout December and January, they were traveling to countries that were suffering huge second waves. And they were posting pictures without masks. They were posting pictures in bars and restaurants where it was super crowded. So, again, this is a hypothesis, right? Because you can't prove it in any way. But the hypothesis says that they brought back infections, which then became the biggest super spreader.
Okay. The worst affected state, actually, of course, Maharashtra. And then we had a lot of cases in Delhi. Even being in Mumbai, I was actually coordinating with a lot of people for arranging oxygen and remdesivir and all these essential, even hospital beds for people in Delhi. So oxygen was a major factor there that was causing a lot of deaths. So that again, I think you have put up a lot of data about oxygen also. So
Yes.
could you speak a little about the oxygen situation and who created that panic situation? You very rightly called it a plandemic. So who actually planned for this oxygen deficit?
Well, the biggest reason was going back to the fact that the second wave was 4.23 times the first wave. So obviously the need for oxygen became far, far more. Also, the second wave consisted of variants of the virus, which were far more severe than during the first wave. So many more people required hospitalization and many more people required oxygen. The demand for oxygen, it shot up 12 times within a matter of days. How do you again do magic and produce 12 times the oxygen within a matter of days? But the central government acted very quickly. It banned the use of oxygen in industrial units, diverted this for medical use. Lots of new plants were set up. But then another thing happened. The rich people in Mumbai and Delhi, which had the maximum oxygen shortage, stored cylinders at home.
Yes.
One cylinder in
Very
a
true.
hospital caters to 4 people. You store 4 cylinders in your house waiting for, because you can afford it, because you think, oh my God, I may need oxygen, so let me just store it. You're depriving 16 others of oxygen. That was
Very
the
true.
second biggest reason. The third biggest reason was that oxygen was also hidden. It was hidden to create the panic. Coming back to what you asked right in the beginning about co-vultures. I was just going to talk about the elections versus the rest, because the data and the analysis and the chart, they show that the biggest rise was, like I said before, Maharashtra, followed by Delhi, Chhattisgarh, then UP, then MP.
Okay. So that
And the
puts a lot
maximum number of
of
deaths, happened in Punjab.
Okay. So that puts a lot of things in perspective, and that shows why exactly we would want to call the farmers' protest as super spreader. And that brings me towards the
Bollywood
end.
and farmers' protests. Bollywood and farmers' protests.
Okay, okay, I stand corrected.
Bollywood
Bollywood.
far bigger. Bollywood far bigger, because
Okay.
43% of the spike in cases to begin with in the second wave happened in Maharashtra, which is 9% of India's population. Just compare the numbers.
Yes, and even in Delhi, the affluent lot, they were actually hosting a lot of events. They were hosting a lot of parties, and they were all putting up pictures. Like my Facebook was full of all these events and parties where people were all without masks. And entire Delhi, there were people who were like they were totally relaxed, and no one was actually following any of these social distancing norms. So again,
And now when you ask them, how did you get COVID? They say Modi stole my mask.
yes. So that comes, that brings me to this question that now, there is this entire conversation, about how anybody who speaks anything against the prime minister is like totally, वो उसको जेल में बंद कर देंगे. And just because somebody posted something against Modi on Twitter, that is why Twitter is going to be banned. And here, both of you, Xavier Rodrigues and Amit Bagaria, you have actually named a book that speaks about all the reasons behind COVID. And you say that Modi stole my mask. I mean, आप में इतनी हिम्मत कहाँ से आई कि you are actually blaming the Prime Minister and you're saying that Modi stole my mask. What exactly is the reason behind such an allegation?
Amit, should we tell them the secret that we don't tell them? Okay. I'll let you on a little secret. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has read the book. He was one of the first people to read the book before it was officially launched.
In fact, in his speech yesterday, one or two comments that he made was based on the book.
Okay, that's a huge compliment.
Well, you see, Raj Lakshmi, let me say that because both Amit and I have, in various aspects, we relate to government in terms of what the government is. We respect the government, we respect the people in the positions that they are. And it didn't matter to us right now whether Narendra Modi is sitting in position or whether it was Dr. Manmohan Singh. Right now, the country is facing a pandemic. It's been turned into a pandemic. We need to save lives. That's most important to us. So while we have utmost faith in the individual that Narendra Modi is and his commitment to the country, people talking about him being fascist on Hitler, I think is absolute lies. Okay, not because he's read our book. I think he's read our book only to figure out what were the highlights of the facts that we put that maybe the government missed out. Okay, because Amit can tell you the interactions we've had with certain government officials who have also read the book.
Yeah, I mean, we've been getting research reports and studies and data from different ministries saying before the print edition comes out, please correct this and please correct that. And I mean, they're super excited about it.
Okay. Yes, I'm sure, because you have really put a lot of things in perspective and you've thrown light on so many aspects that will definitely give a lot of positivity to whoever reads it. And I'm sure all of viewers, they will go back and they will want to read the book and they will feel that, yes, the situation is bad. The situation is not as bad as it is made out to be. And that definitely, we can overcome it. So any concluding remarks from both of you?
Raj Lakshmi, can I say something?
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
Now imagine the situation where there is a fire in your home, and I want your viewers to understand what I'm saying. There is a situation where there is fire in your home, your family is inside that home, and you are outside the home in that building of yours, discussing with your friend why you don't have a fire hydrant in the building to put off the fire. Would you do that? Or would you go into the house, figure out a way to save your family, douse the fire, and then deal with all the precautions or measures that you needed to have taken to douse the fire, right? Later. So right
Yes.
now, this is exactly what this country is at. The country is at a position where we collectively as citizens must work with the government to actually ensure that we get out of the health crisis situation, because it's not a crisis we see every day. It is a crisis that has come after probably 100 years. The last known crisis of this nature was the Spanish flu, right? So we are seeing this mass problem, this bioweapon that China has unleashed. Now, one of the main things that we must understand about this is that China unleashed the pandemic on the world and India got affected. But the Chinese agents in India actually unleashed what we call the pandemic to ensure that the sufferings of the people of India actually do not stop and their tears do not dry up. All the people, the Chinese agents that I call in India, actually wanted the people to suffer. And for that, they need to be with. No country, look at, they were taking an example of Israel, right? In Israel, the opposition and the ruling fought the pandemic together as one country. That moron, Rahul Gandhi, and the even bigger moron, Arvind Kejriwal, all they were interested in is ensuring that people die. That is what they were. So I want the country to wake up. That's the idea of writing the book. When Amit and I decided to write the book, Amit started it and I joined him later, was to tell the country the truth that these guys are Chinese agents. They had planned for you to die and suffer.
You know, to end with on a lighter note, Rajlakshmi, have you seen the movie Sholay?
Yes.
Tell
I'm
you've
sure
seen it also,
everyone
right?
who
Of
watches
course.
this has.
There is this
All-time
famous
favorite.
scene. There is this famous scene in Sholay where Dharmender gets drunk and he climbs on top of the water tank. You know, someone, either his son Sunny Deol or someone, should do that scene again. And it should become the ad for BJP in the next election. They don't need to spend crores. They just do one small clipping of 30 seconds. Mausi, मैं सुसाइड कर लूंगा सुसाइड अगर तुम राहुल गांधी या अरविंद केजरीवाल को वोट दो तो।
Okay. That's a hilarious take on that movie. Thank you so much, Amit and Savyo, for giving us your time. And I'm sure that after watching this, all our viewers will stay negative from Corona and become super spreaders of positivity in terms of helping each other, becoming a strong society, and figuring out how to overcome the pandemic. So,
Correct.
thank you so much for sharing all your wonderful insights.
Sure.
This has been a really invaluable session.
Thank you.
Thank you so
To your
much.
words, Rajlakshmi, I say Jai Ho.
Jai Ho! Jai Ho! Thank
God
you
bless.
so much.
Goodbye.
Jai Ho. So I'm sure that after this eye-opening session with Amit Bagaria and Sam, you will all be very, very clear about how we as Indians, we as Bharatiyas, should all come together as a society and not pay attention, not pay heed to all the negative propaganda around us, and stay united as a society and be warriors and be super spreaders of positivity, positivity in the head, positivity in our attitude, and do away with all negativities in our life. So stay united, stay strong, India. We will overcome. भारत और भारत माता की सदा ही जय हो. Jai Ho.